More than 100 aid groups warn of starvation in Gaza as Israeli strikes kill 21, officials say. Deir al-Balah, Gaza Strip, local health officials say that Israeli strikes killed another 21 people overnight, and more than 100 charity and human rights groups said on Wednesday that Israel's blockade and ongoing military offensive are forcing Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to starve. In the meantime, Steve Witkoff, the Mideast envoy for the Trump administration, was scheduled to meet with a senior Israeli official about ceasefire talks. This was a sign that lower-level negotiations, which had been going on for weeks, might be getting closer to a breakthrough. According to experts, Israel's blockade and offensive in response to Hamas' attack on October 7, 2023, put Gaza at risk of starvation. The head of the World Health Organization said Gaza is witnessing a deadly surge in malnutrition and related diseases, and that a large proportion of its roughly 2 million people are starving. Israel says it allows enough aid into the territory and faults delivery efforts by UN agencies, which say they are hindered by Israeli restrictions and the breakdown of security. In exchange for a long-term ceasefire and an Israeli withdrawal, Hamas has stated that it will only release the remaining 50 hostages it holds, with approximately 20 of those hostages believed to be alive. Israel has promised to free all of the prisoners and fight Hamas until it is defeated or disarmed. Chaos, starvation, and death. 115 organizations, including major international aid organizations like Doctors Without Borders, Mercy Corps, and Save the Children, stated in an open letter that they were witnessing their own colleagues and the Palestinians they serve waste away. The letter blamed Israeli restrictions and massacres at aid distribution points. Witnesses, health officials, and the UN Office for Human Rights claim that Israeli forces have killed more than 1,000 people by firing repeatedly on crowds seeking assistance. Israel says its forces have only fired warning shots and that the death toll is exaggerated. According to the letter, the Israeli government's restrictions, delays, and fragmentation under its total siege have created chaos, hunger, and death. WHO Director Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus echoed that criticism, telling reporters that acute malnutrition centers in Gaza are full of patients and lack adequate supplies. He stated that acute malnutrition rates exceed 10% and that more than 20% of pregnant and breastfeeding women suffer from severe malnutrition. The representative of the United Nations Health Agency in the occupied Palestinian territories, Rick Pieperkorn, said there were more than 30,000 children under 5 with acute malnutrition in Gaza and that the WHO had reports that at least 21 children under 5 have died so far this year. Israel says critics are echoing Hamas propaganda. The Israeli Foreign Ministry rejected the criticism in the open letter and accused the groups of echoing Hamas propaganda. Since lifting the entire blockade in May, it claimed that it has allowed approximately 4,500 aid trucks into Gaza and that more than 700 trucks are waiting to be picked up and distributed by the United Nations. That's about 70 trucks per day on average, which is the lowest rate of the war and far below the 500 to 600 trucks per day that the United Nations says are needed during a 6-week ceasefire earlier this year. The United Nations claims that Israeli military restrictions, ongoing fighting, and a breakdown in law and order have made it difficult to deliver aid inside Gaza. Violence and controversy have marred an alternative system that Israel and an American contractor developed. Top advisor to Netanyahu will meet U.S. envoy in Rome. An official familiar with ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas said Ron Dermer, a top advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was traveling to Rome to meet Witkoff on Thursday to discuss the state of the talks. Because they were not permitted to discuss the delicate negotiations, the official spoke on Wednesday on condition of anonymity. According to American officials, Witkoff intended to travel to Europe this week. The State Department spokesperson said he was headed to the Middle East in a sign that momentum may be building toward a deal. The evolving deal is expected to include a 60-day ceasefire in which Hamas would release 10 living hostages and the remains of 18 others in phases in exchange for Palestinians imprisoned by Israel. The two sides would hold talks on a long-term truce and increase aid supplies. Overnight strikes kill at least 21. Israel has continued to carry out waves of daily airstrikes against what it says are militant targets but which often kill women and children. Because Hamas militants operate in densely populated areas, Israel attributes civilian deaths to the group. Strikes overnight and into Wednesday killed at least 21 people, more than half of them women and children, according to local health officials. Shifa Hospital, which received the casualties, claims that at least 12 people were killed when one of the strikes struck a house in Gaza City. The Health Ministry of Gaza says that 2 women and 6 children were killed. The Israeli military said it struck an Islamic Jihad military.